We don't have the whole council here.
No, I told, we've already discussed this. No more.
Wait just a moment for Councillor Hawley to get connected. Bless you. Give her another minute or so and then we'll get started. if Councillor Holly is going to join us.
Let's go ahead and start. She's getting on now. All right, well, I'll see you here in a second.
Okay, yeah, Councillor Holly will join us momentarily. And Mr. Torres is back, so welcome to the September 22nd Town of Edgewood regular council meeting, starting a bit late, 6:35. First thing is Pledge of Allegiance. So join me. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Thank you, everyone. I guess we can do a roll call. Councillor Holly, are you with us?
Yes, my apologies for the technical difficulties. I am here.
And Councillor Abraham?
Here.
And Councillor Jaramillo?
Sorry about that. I am present.
And we have Clerk Treasurer Torres, Mr. Larry Hall. We have the town's attorney tonight. The chief is here, as well as Chuck, our road supervisor. So let's begin. First, we have approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I will second. We've got a motion and a second. How do you vote? Councillor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Councillor Holly?
Aye.
Councillor Abraham?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. We have an agenda. First item on the agenda is consent agenda. I would make a motion to approve this evening's consent agenda.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Discussion. For the code enforcement report, I know we got the one that they sent for July. I did not get the one for August. Are we going to get that? The one they emailed to us?
Oh, you're talking about more of the details, Councillor Abraham?
Yes.
That we usually get via email?
No, yeah. Tim sent it.
Oh, wait. I guess it is here. I'm
It's
sorry. I
here.
must have just
Yeah, I was just looking for it. It's here.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I just missed it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion?
Yes. I just wanted to ask about the animal control reports, and I saw in July and August that they had one transaction per month, and so I just wanted to see, just to make sure that they were fully open now, because I think there's a lot of, I think they were full with animals in the cages and needing to adopt out. And I just didn't see a lot of activity happening in those 2 months, and had also during those 2 months a lot of complaints. And so I just wanted to check on the current status.
Chief, if you would wish to speak to that.
Yes, councilors, Mayor Pro Tem. It is open. We are running open. We are still in lockdown status. It's by appointment only. We are bringing in animals. It's pretty steady flow, but we are getting adopted out as quickly as possible. Right now, we do have, I believe, if I'm correct, 3 open cages, and we've got, I think, like 4 cat cages open. But as far as being open, again, we're just doing it by appointment only.
Thank you, Chief.
Are they responsive to calls?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, they are responding to calls.
Okay. Okay. And microchipping and anything like that? I mean, are they open and... I mean, I'm hearing you say that they're appointment only. But I'm just wondering, is there activity happening?
Oh, yes. Yes, they're still patrolling. They're at the office daily, every day. They're still doing their job. It's just the building itself that is by appointment only. I mean, I didn't clarify that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I had.
Thank you, Council. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. How do you vote? Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Councilor Hawley?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. We have approved our consent agenda. Next, we have public comment regarding Section 4 action items identified below. Pursuant to the Town of Edgewood Governing Body Operating Resolution 2021-03, any person wishing to participate as a speaker shall first be recognized by the Mayor Pro Tem. Each person who is recognized by the Mayor Pro Tem shall speak and shall only offer comment regarding the item set forth in this agenda. Members of the public may offer comment regarding the items set forth in this agenda for a maximum of 2 minutes unless additional time is yielded to the speaker by another member of the public. If the speaker offers a discussion outside the scope of the item set forth in this agenda, the Mayor Pro Tem may declare the speaker out of order, and any speaker who is determined out of order shall cease speaking immediately upon said determination. We can go through the callers on the line, and I will take your name and whether you wish to speak. So we have, first off, if you would unmute caller number 4. Caller number 4, do you wish to speak this evening? Caller number 4, you're unmuted. Do you wish to speak this evening? Okay. Caller number 5. Caller number 5, you are unmuted. Would you wish to speak this evening? Caller number 5. Caller number 6, you are unmuted. Do you wish to speak this evening? Caller number 6, do you wish to speak? I don't hear anyone who wishes to speak on the callers on the line, so and I don't see anyone else, so I think we can move forward with action items. First action item is a discussion, consideration, and action on the approval of the second quarter 2021 wastewater treatment plant report. We have Mr. Larry Hall with us. Mr. Hall. Mr. Hall, you're muted.
Can you hear me good now?
Yes, Mr. Hall, we can hear you now.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, councilors. I would like to read a report that I've written that kind of updates things and hopefully maybe answers everyone's questions or most of their questions, if I may.
Certainly. Go ahead, Mr. Hall.
Thank you. First off, I feel it necessary to address some concerns that have been raised regarding pond levels, permit non-compliance, and others. As you can see from the quarterly report, there is a difference of what the flow meter totals show is entering the pond versus what the flow meter for the alternate disposal site shows leaving the pond. Specifically, the plant effluent meters, which is what is entering the pond from the plant, shows a significant amount more water entering the pond versus what is leaving through the alternate disposal flow meter. There could be a few reasons for this, and we are currently looking into them. I am working with the town's engineer to provide evaporation estimates on this specific pond in this specific location. We need a better understanding of this to determine how much of this discrepancy can be explained through natural water loss through the evaporation process. From the research I've done, it appears it can be a very significant amount, but there are many variables that can affect it, so I want to get some estimates based on our specifics in Edgewood. We'll keep you informed of what we find. With regard to us violating the permit from the pond overflowing, simply put, I can tell you that has not occurred since I have been involved with the plant. If just a small fraction of the water purported to have overflowed the pond had occurred, the dirt berm would have quickly eroded to the point of the pond suffering a catastrophic failure. Moreover, as you know, NMED conducted an inspection based upon concerns raised to them from drone photos taken of the pond, as well as a purported pile of sludge illegally being stockpiled at the plant. NMED conducted an on-site inspection of the facility on March 10th, 2021. I was on site with NMED during this entire inspection, which involved walking the entire plant and grounds, including the entire perimeter of the pond, and measuring the freeboard at several different locations around the pond as instructed by NMED. 3 of the locations did not meet the minimum 24-inch freeboard requirements as stated in the NMED inspection report by, quote, 2 to 3 inches, close quote. We were then instructed by NMED to discharge water to the alternate disposal site to achieve the 24-inch freeboard requirement, which we did and reported to NMED with photo evidence that we had restored the required freeboard 5 days later on March 15, 2021. During this inspection, there was an extremely strong wind present during the entire inspection, which was causing waves on the surface of the pond. As we walked around the entire pond perimeter, not only was it noted that there was no water overtopping the pond, but there was also no evidence, as noted by NMED, of overtopping ever having occurred. And remember, this was at a time when the pond was 2 to 3 inches above the freeboard level and an extremely strong wind. Since that time, the pond has been well below freeboard, and it currently sits at approximately 5 feet below the minimum freeboard requirement. With regards to the alternate disposal area in the inspection report, NMED reported the following. Quote, the NMED and facility staff also walked the perimeter of the 40-acre alternative disposal area, which the town currently uses as the primary disposal location for treated effluent. Mr. Cordova turned the disposal pumps on to allow the inspectors to determine if any treated effluent was ponding or leaving the site. There was no indication that treated effluent was ponding in any way, and the spray irrigation did not leave the site. Again, keep in mind, this was an extremely windy day, so from my standpoint, it was the perfect day to have an inspection because it was basically worst case scenario with a full pond and a strong wind. In addition, the NMED report also stated, quote, previous enforcement actions by NMED required the permittee to construct an impervious surface for composting of the seawater sludge. The permittee has completed the impervious surface but has yet to use it. the permittee has been able to utilize the on-site belt press and have got waste of sludge in a way that would require the impervious surface for drying the sludge and composting it. The permittee has stored mulch on the ground, which appeared to be sludge from an elevated viewpoint. NMED confirmed this was mulch, close quote. In addition to addressing some of the concerns, I also would like to speak about some of what we have accomplished since we spoke last. We have completed several major items at the plant that are major accomplishments that are getting us closer to being able to reusing the water again. The first of which was cleaning the membrane air diffusers. This is something I've wanted to complete for a long time, but due to its difficulty in terms of both the task itself as well as logistically, we haven't been able to do it until now. Mike Garcia and myself had to do this work in the middle of the night, and the flows were very low. We completely drained MBR number 1 tank into the adjacent empty tanks in order to enter MBR number 1 tank and physically clean all of the air diffusers located near the bottom of the tank. We found an extremely excessive amount of debris and sludge in the bottom of the tank. The debris is due to the poorly / non-functional screens that we've discussed many times. This was extremely difficult work due to the debris, the sludge, and the close proximity of the cassettes themselves. What I've seen at other Kubota plants is the diffusers can become plugged with solids over time, and the solids are fairly easy to remove using a custom-made tool. However, the Edgewood plant diffusers were plugged with a hard scale, and removing this hard scale proved to be extremely difficult, laborious, time-consuming process. However, after a very long night, the results I'm seeing is very encouraging. I estimate that approximately 1/3 or more of the diffusers were plugged because these diffusers provide a vital function in the membrane plant. Them not working causes several major process issues. The first of which is the diffuser's main function is to keep the membrane surface clear of solids. Without the air from the diffusers constantly moving across the membrane surface during production, the membrane surface will quickly plug with solids and render those plates useless in terms of not allowing water to pass through. This reduces the hydraulic capacity of the plant by the number of plates that are plugged with solids. We have noted this plugging each time we pull a cassette and pull all the plates in order to identify and replace torn plates. So cleaning these diffusers gives us over 1/3 more plates able to pass water. Since the completion of this work, I have seen immediate and dramatic results in permeability and transmembrane pressures, which are used to determine the cleanliness and therefore hydraulic capacity of the membranes. An additional problem with diffusers being plugged is it causes a higher velocity of air to move across the plates that do have functional diffusers. This may contribute to the tearing of the membranes. We have seen several membranes tear at the very top of the plate near the welds, and in my experience this occurs from too high of air velocity. I will take some time to determine if the tearing at the top of the plate is noticeably reduced from what we did. In addition to cleaning the diffusers on the 3 cassettes that have been in the plant functional, we also cleaned all of the diffusers in the 4th previously unused diffuser frame. I estimate that nearly 90% of these diffusers were completely plugged. So installing a 4th cassette in this location would have been futile because it would be 90% plugged and useless in a very short period of time. Now we have 100% of these diffusers functional on this 4th cassette location. We also we have the acquisition of 11 additional cassette frames and plates. We were recently able to acquire 11 used cassettes. We were just originally trying to get the cassettes, but they included the used plates as well. So we weren't going to turn them down. This means we have an additional cassette which we can install in MBR number 1, as well as cassette frames that can be installed in MBR number 2 once additional equipment is in place. These cassette frames are in excellent condition, will save the town tens of thousands of dollars. In addition to the cassette frames, they included used plates, which I spoke of. We have been in the process of doing deep cleaning on these plates by removing them from the cassette and allowing them to soak in chemicals for an extended period of time. I have had good success in the past with this process, and I am hopeful the plates are functional so they can be used in the Edgewood plant. This would allow us to have the plates needed to deal with replacing the constant tearing plates until the root cause of the problem is solved in the form of new headwork screens. After cleaning the air diffusers and deep cleaning some of the used plates, we have installed a fourth cassette in MBR number 1. The cassette's only been installed for about 4 weeks, but I see major improvements in flow capacity with lower pressures and lower turbidity. It's still too early to say 100% definitively, but it appears the deep cleaning of the used plates has worked, which means this fourth cassette will increase the plant's hydraulic capacity by 25%. Just a little more on that. When I wrote this originally, it was 2 weeks ago, so we've got another 2 weeks under our belt with this. We were doing cleanings on the cassettes weekly and kind of barely keeping our heads above water, excuse the pun. And now we've gone 2 weeks without doing a clean. And based upon the numbers I'm seeing, I think we can go another week. So it's been not only the cleaning of the diffusers to free up some of the plates that were plugged on the 3 cassettes we were using, but the addition of the fourth cassette has added dramatic capacity to the treatment plant. We've had no trouble keeping up with the flows. So that's good news because it's been a big struggle up to this point, as you know. I would also just like to quickly review some of the items that we've completed to date, in addition to these recent major items that we've completed. With the exception of the impervious surface for the dewater sludge, these items were done in-house by myself, Mike Garcia, and other town staff. A lot of these projects would normally require outside contractors to complete. Doing them in-house has not only saved the town thousands of dollars, but more importantly allowed us to get these issues corrected quickly. Some of these are the completion of the impervious surface for dewater sludge as required by the current permit, the completion of the alternate disposal system as required by the current permit, installation of a liquid sodium hypochlorite disinfection system to provide an immediate solution to the UV system not functioning for what I am told is many years, installation of new turbidity meter and tying it into the SCADA system so that turbidity can be monitored continuously as required by the permit. We have begun testing for fecal coliform instead of E. coli, as was being done in the past and is required by the current permit. We tied the new effluent sampler into the SCADA system, allowing us to do flow-based composite samples as required by the current permit. Installation of additional signage as required by the current permit. All existing reuse hydrants outside of the treatment plant fence have all been padlocked. Fences have been repaired and or installed around the plant and alternate disposal site. Replacement of the headworks gas ventilator monitor, rendering it functional again. Adjustments to the PID loop of the permeate pumps to improve membrane performance. Installation of a system to remove tiny air bubbles, aka a bubble trap, from the effluent water, which was causing the turbidity meter to read incorrectly at times. There are a few more items that can be completed in-house under our annual operation budget, but most of these items remaining are large capital improvement projects, which you are aware of, such as the replacement of the headwork screens, the addition of the membrane cassette, our dip tank, blower automation, SCADA work, lift station, and others. I will continue to identify issues throughout the plant and will devise strategies for correction. The biggest item that has been on the list from day one, really before day one, as far as since before I came up for is the replacement of the headwork screens, which is moving forward. The bid opening has taken place, and my understanding is the award for the bid for that project will take place very soon. I just want to say that I have been in the wastewater, drinking water, and laboratory business for over 30 years. And over that time, I have managed, operated, or consulted for over 100 facilities across Utah, New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, Idaho, and Nevada. And I am very serious when it comes to doing things the correct way and ensuring permit compliance and public health. As I have mentioned before, this small plant in Edgewood has some extremely unique challenges. As mentioned, we have made tremendous strides, and while there are still issues that need resolution, we are getting very, very close to a functional plant. And I guess I just want to remind everybody that we have solved a lot of problems, and we are moving in a very good direction. And I think sometimes maybe even I lose sight of that a little bit because you just seem to focus on the problems that you have. And there's stuff to be done, but we're getting very, very close. And the key is going to be the completion of the new screens and the headworks. So with that, I would ask if anyone has any questions or anything I can clarify for them.
Councilor Abraham, you are muted. Councilor Hawley.
Okay. I just want to say, Mr. Hall, thank you so much for being online with us this evening and bringing us up to date. And I agree with you. You have made tremendous strides along with Mike Garcia's assistance. And I've been very pleased with the plant operations under your supervision and direction. And I don't think it's been running this well probably from day one. So thank you for your dedication and determination to get, issues resolved. And there's been a lot of big ones. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That means a lot.
Councilor Abraham.
Okay, I want to say, first of all, I want to say thank you, Mr. Hall, for coming and presenting us all of this information. It really helps to know what is being done as it's being done and what's been done recently. I think we do get overwhelmed by never hearing about what's going on at the wastewater plant. We don't get our reports on time, and I don't know if that is how to improve that. We've asked and asked and asked to have quarterly, when you do the quarterly reports, to have you come and visit with us and tell us what's going on. We really missed you at the budget meeting. And so I do appreciate you coming and telling us about the things that you have been doing and some improvements that have been made. When you talk about cleaning the membrane air diffusers, that you found an excessive amount of sludge in the bottom because of the screens, and you removed the hard scale from the diffusers. You talk about what a difficult process that is. Is there something that we can do to make that process easier?
The biggest issue is the screens and the debris coming in. When you have a membrane plant, it's absolutely vital to remove the debris up front, or it's just going to cause these issues. There is a diffuser clean valve that needs to be replaced that is on one of the current projects, so that will help. The way these diffusers get cleaned is through that valve. So there is some ways to help. I've been involved in several Kubota plants over my time, and some Kubota plants do really well at cleaning the diffusers, and you really never need to get in and do what we did, and others struggle with it. Yours isn't yours is the worst I've seen in terms of, because of the calcium, the hardness that's built up on the diffusers, and so just the level that it took to actually do it. But I have seen other plants that are a little worse off than that. I don't know why. I've got some theories, but some of them just seem to be better, have a better, even though the process is the same at cleaning the diffusers, some of them it seems to work better. I don't know the answer to that. But I feel like what we've done is going to get us a long way. This is something that, like I mentioned, I wanted to do this from the beginning, from day one when I went and looked at the plant. I could see that it was an issue. Part of the biggest problem was just, the plant had so many problems, we would get, in order to do this, we had to have all the adjacent tanks empty. And so we would get there and we'd finally get all the adjacent tanks empty, and then we'd have an event. And we'd have to use the tanks to put the excess water in and then treat the water later. So we just kept having these issues that we couldn't get it done. So now that we have it done, like I said, our capacity, I mean, I'm not totally surprised, but it's been really, really good. Like the pressures are extremely low, the transmembrane pressures, the permeability is extremely low. We're able to move a lot more water through the plant than we were before. And we haven't had any issues with, no matter what happens with the flow. You know, before we get a big flow day, which we've talked about before, we've expressed concerns about before, and we would struggle with that. But since having done this, we've had a couple big flow days, and the plant has had no problem treating that water.
Okay, that's great to know. So, that's been my concern all along, is that the plant has so many needs that need to be taken care of, yet we couldn't get information on what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, what do we need to purchase, all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad that you did this, and then it seems to be working really hard. You know, we have been funding those screens since probably early 2018. So I don't know what the holdup on them is. But then I have one other question. I've heard before.
Wait, Councilor Abraham, I would like an answer to that, because I did notice that we have funded screens many times. So I'm curious what the holdup is. I know you said that the bid was going to be awarded.
It's not something that, I have been involved in it, but obviously that's an NMED and the state, and I can't tell the engineers, and I can't tell you, it's an extremely arduous bureaucratic process, and there's a lot of hoops to be jumped through. So I can't speak to specifics, but as far as trying to, you can't really do everything all at once at these plants. It's kind of like trying to, run a car that doesn't have oil in it. The screens are an absolute vital part, and they're causing a lot of these other ancillary issues, such as mainly with the tearing of the plates. So all of this work that we've, have been constantly pulling these and trying to pull the plates out and put new plates in, that's work that you shouldn't have to do, but it's a function of not having screens and having debris in the plant. I can't speak to the specifics as to how long it's taken or why it's taken that long. I'm just glad that it's going to be awarded soon. I know that.
Okay.
Does Juan know what happened as far as the funding for the screens and the awarding? Maybe you could refresh our memory on that part.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, Council.
Your microphone's not on.
Can't hear
You guys hear me now?
How about now? Can you hear
Mayor
me?
Pro Tem, Council. Sorry, and I also want to apologize. My camera's not working on my laptop for whatever reason, so I do apologize for that. So with respect to the funding, so if you recall, you guys allowed us to do that clean water, or what was it, CWSRF, the loan. So we did go out for that loan. We were funded for that amount, and we were going to use that for the screens. The process for the screens, initially we wanted to use one of our on-call engineers and just use that as a task order. NMED told us no, so then we had to go develop an RFP to do that. Then we issued the RFP, and then we had to go through the whole process to score, for that. Finally got the engineer for the screens. Then they came out. I think they worked with Larry at the time, and I think that was right around the time we brought Larry in. We started working basically to develop the needs, came up with that, and then came up with the process of picking the screens that are specific that'll help this plant versus just issuing an RFP or a bid for a company to come in and put screens. That way we got specifically what we wanted. So those screens have been, I know we went through that, they've been ordered, and my understanding they were like 28 weeks out or something like that, and this was earlier in the year. Now the bid opening happened, RMCI is the apparent low bidder. I know. So at NMED, there was a little bit of turnover there, so we had to wait for the person, and it's now Judy Kale is now the person we're dealing with again. And I know we're trying to get her approval or authorization to go ahead and award those screens, and they can start the whole process to install them and do the construction. But like Larry said,
did we ever purchase screens in 2018? Were we able to get some at one point in time?
Screens, no. No, we purchased membranes, but not screens.
Oh, okay. That must be what I was thinking of.
Yeah, currently we have the little box that really does nothing. The water just flows through it, and then we have kind of a little grate that we kind of staff built to kind of try and catch the bigger things, but it is not a good screen process. The screens that are on there essentially never really work. They would fill up, clog, and they would just overflow them. But yeah, so hopefully that problem should be rectified soon, and we can get screens installed. And like Larry said, and that should hopefully improve the plant.
All right, so that loan is the same funding that we're going to be using now?
Yes, so we're going to use the loan funding for the screens themselves, and then we're going to use capital outlay for the installation, and also I believe we're going to put like the dip tank, some of the other things that that the engineers have identified as issues with the plant. The dip tank will definitely help, and Larry, you can speak to the dip tank better than I can, but then that'll help clean the membranes from like the calcium buildup and stuff. And I'm not sure what all was on there, but yeah, so the loan was for the screen specifically, and then the capital outlay will be for some of the other issues, to help resolve some of the other issues at the plant.
Yeah, the valve I spoke of for the diffuser cleaning that you asked about, Councilor Abraham, that's on there.
Okay.
We also had a community member reporting that lift stations were about to fail.
So we had a lift station pump that broke. So what you have in the industry when you have equipment that you have two of, but you only need one of them to run, is known as an alternating spare. So in the case of the lift station, you have two pumps in the lift station. Both of them individually are sized to meet the peak demand. They have capacity by themselves. They alternate, they call it an alternating spare. So instead of having one pump in there, it breaks, you pull another one off the shelf and replace it, you have two that alternate. So the idea is, when you have one go down, you have a spare. You get it fixed as fast as you possibly can. You get it back in there. That's what we've done. The pump was taken into Albuquerque and repaired. It was installed last week, I think Thursday. I'm not sure the exact day, but it's in and running. There's several things at the plant like that. Every treatment plant, they've got alternating spares. Blowers are alternating spares. The permeate pumps are alternating spares. So it's the same thing where, we have two permeate pumps, only one of them runs at a time. If one of them goes down, we've only got one. So it's certainly an urgency to get that repaired. We did have a contingency plan, which is to pump, basically to pump it. But that's not uncommon for lift stations. Most lift stations have 2 pumps, alternating spare, they call it.
Mr. Hall, I have a question on that then. Since they alternate, so one works and one rests, and then it works and the other one rests. Since one of them went down, is there a plan to possibly go ahead and do something like rebuilding the other one, or do you have to wait until it fails before you can do some kind of, preventive maintenance?
No, certainly not. I mean, we do preventative maintenance on most of the equipment. Yes, we need to look into having the other pump pulled and having preventative maintenance done on it and have it gone through and checked. That's proven.
Okay. All right. So one other question. Would you be available maybe sometime to go through our asset management plan with us and help us to understand what urgently we need to be funding for future, like the alternating spare? What kind of things we could be doing? It sounds like you maybe got our plant kind of working as well as it has in quite some time. And so now, I know Juan said one time we're just working in emergency mode. Do you think we're at a place where we can maybe start addressing some of the things outside of an emergency situation? Or not quite yet?
I think so. I think we might be. How's that? I think that we've got these huge plates in. They ran for a month, right? Mm-hmm. They look good so far, but I can't 100% definitively say. So, I mean, I'm just giving you an honest answer. I'm not trying to turn around it. We need to get ahead of the curve on what you're speaking of. I completely agree with that we need to look at the assets. And that's really the place that I function from. I don't like to function from an emergency mode. It's much better to function from a proactive mode. And so, yes, I would love to get there, and I would be happy to work with whoever on determining what are the most critical assets and what's the best avenue to make sure that we get proactive instead of reactive. Okay, because that has been my major concern from the very beginning when we did the original PER that said we need lots of items for this plant, and then we seem to just kind of be running in emergency mode and never doing anything proactively. So I do appreciate if we can get to that point. And then one other thing, you talked about, at one point you said that 3 out of the 4 locations failed to have the 24-inch freeboard. What happened with that? Why did we fail to have that? I mean, I think I spoke to this at a previous council meeting, I believe, and I mean the honest answer is we knew that we were close to the 2 feet. We had Mike and I had discussed it, and we had already talked about disposing of the water. It was just kind of a misjudgment, as before we were kind of looking at it and judging it and saying, okay, yeah, it's about 2 feet. We were pretty close. We were off by 2 inches, 3 inches, but we were off. Now there's we have built a contraption that's going to be put in the pond that will take the guesswork out, or I shouldn't say guesswork, but the estimating out. Right. That will have an actual ruler that will show where that freeboard is. So that's the honest answer and how we got there. It won't happen again as long as I'm involved, I can tell you that.
So there's not a process to like once a week just let go of a certain amount of water or something like that? You don't do that?
Well, no. During the winter, it's a little more difficult. You know, we're allowed by the permit to dispose of the water, but we can't have any ponding, we can't have any freezing. So in the summertime, it's not an issue. We can just let it go. Like I said, right now we've got about approximately 5 feet down. We're going to let a little more out in preparation for the winter, but based on current flows, you know, right now we've got about 4 months capacity in there. So we'll continue to bring that down a little bit. So we've got plenty of capacity going into the winter.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciated the things that you told us today and the information that we got. I would really like to get this, like, for each quarterly report, you know, like what your major concerns are that maybe we need to be looking at funding for, what kinds of things can we be proactive about, what kinds of things have been done so that we see you're actually doing stuff. I think we sometimes feel like if you don't come talk to us, it's because you're not doing anything. And so I just really appreciate what you've done today. I really, really do. So thank you.
I appreciate that, and I understand where you're coming from, and I just want you guys to know that, you know, we are being transparent. We are, if I wasn't being transparent, you wouldn't be looking at numbers like that. We have problems that we have been trying to overcome from day one.
Right.
And my main goal, it's the same one that as when I first got there, is to start reusing the water again. So that's my goal. We're close. You know, you were asking about all the other stuff. To me, you know, that's kind of the line, if you will, that says, yeah, we got it. You know, we're meeting permit, which we are meeting permit in order to dispose of it now, but we're meeting permit to reuse it. That's where I'm trying to get to.
Well, that was the reason the plant was built, so, was to be able to reuse it. So, okay, thank you.
All right, council, we have an action
I
item. Okay, Councilor Harmiel, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hall, great to hear from you. I won't repeat what the other counselors have already mentioned, but just know that you're appreciated and your hard work and communication is a good thing. I did have a few questions. First of all, let's see. What is up and coming for the rest of the year?
I guess what's the biggest thing that's up and coming is to see if we can use these plates that we have in combination with the plates that we already had, and are able to replace the plates that are torn and see if we're going to be able to run long enough without the tears in the plates that we could meet turbidity, we could meet BOD, we could meet all these things to the point where we can reuse the water. So that's, like I said, that's my number one goal. Also obviously on the front is the new permit, which kind of got, I guess, the proverbial cart maybe got put a little bit before the horse, but that should be coming soon. So, you know, we're going to have to address some of the things we've already addressed in the new permit, because when NMED came out, I spoke to them about, you know, some of the issues that they had with the current permit and how they do the permits now, as far as, and that's some of the signage that I spoke of. And the fencing, you know, the fencing will be defined better. It wasn't defined, it was ambiguous in the old permit. So some of that we've already done, but obviously that will be a major part. And then the project that's coming up with the replacement of the screens and the diffuser clean valve and the dip tank and some of the other things that we talked about. We're not over the finish line yet. I feel like we're really close and we've made really good strides, but we're not quite there. We can't reuse the water yet, and that's what it's for. So.
Right. I understand that you're still somewhat in the troubleshooting and, you know, figuring out different variables stage. So I do understand that part. As far as the design of the screens and where to put them, has that already been done?
Yes.
And
yes, all that's been done and approved with, go ahead.
It's been approved by NMED?
Yes.
Already? Okay. Okay.
Is that one of yes, it has, otherwise it wouldn't have went out to bid.
Yes, you're correct.
That's correct, right, Juan?
Sorry, I couldn't hear him.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. And so then the person or the company that's going to actually install is possibly RMCI if NMED approves?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. All right. And is all the engineering already done?
Mayor Council, I believe it is.
All of it is done.
I mean, I think the engineering-wise, the only thing that's left to do is construction oversight for the installation.
On install? Okay. Is it going to be designed and put into a place where the plant can't be improved or expanded? Is it going to limit us in any way?
Mayor Council, I don't believe it will. I mean, it's going to fit in the current footprint of the plant. We're not going to be expanding out or doing anything else, so there's plenty of room to expand in the future or build a completely new plant if need be in the future. But it's going to be with...
I believe that the screens were sized such to accommodate the build out of the plant.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were smaller or...
Well, the screen that's there now, I don't know the history and all that, but it's tiny. I'm just saying that the screens that were selected were sized such to be able to take the flow of the plant at full build out of that plant. What it was originally designed with both membranes, basins running at the same time. I think its original design is 150,000. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's what it is.
You're correct, Mr. Hall. It is under 50,000 gallons per day.
Okay. And then we had different phases of this project, right, from the technical memo. So where are we at on phase 2?
Phase 2, Counselor? Phase 2 of what are we talking?
Well, I don't know details. I don't have it right in front of me, but I had a note from before that phase 1 was kind of like the drying pad, I think, an alternative disposal system, and then that there's also the next step of phase 2 on fixing the plant. Juan, you probably know.
Mayor and Council,
From the
I don't recall off the top of my head.
technical memo.
The tech memo, no. I do not recall off the top of my head.
Larry, do you have the technical memo?
I'm not sure which technical memo you're speaking of. I think I remember seeing emails on this current project that mentioned phase 2. I was trying to look for those to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she called it, in some of the emails that I'm seeing, it's called the Edgewood WWTP Improvements Package 2. I don't know what technical memo you're speaking of, or if that's the same thing, but sorry, I guess that doesn't really answer your question.
Okay, that's all right. It was from 2018, so it's been a while, but I think you probably do have it because that was the goal and the solution for fixing the plant, so to speak. So I just wanted to find out, what's happening next and the costs and status of it.
Well, maybe it's something that we can bring forth for the third quarter report, which should be due pretty soon, correct?
Oh, right.
Yeah, the quarter, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, since we are close to the end of September, it would be great to hear in October.
Well, Councilor,
So the quarterly reports are due they're due the first month after the end of the quarter. So to
November.
the third quarter is due November. It's in the permit. I think it's, let's see, September. I believe they're due November 1st. And part of that is we've got to get the data back from the lab. So there's a lag there, a fairly significant one. So that's part of the reason for it seems like the quarterly reporting to you guys is a little slower. Those reports are not due till a month after the end of the quarter to NMED.
And also, Council, I don't think that the construction of the new screens it may start in the interim, but I don't think it's going to be completed by the due date of the quarterly report. So the effects of the effects of the installation of those screens are probably not going to be seen until early next year.
Yes, at best, that's correct.
But maybe you can talk to us. Maybe by then you'll have time to research the phase 2 and maybe report back to us on that.
Just an email would be fine.
Council, real quick, sorry to interrupt. So I'm looking at the MBR. So for alternative 1, which was improve the existing, it was to replace the fine screens, install a core screen and grit removal system, influent and effluent samplers, belt press upgrade, SCADA improvements, blower repairs, and then various minor improvements. So of that listing, the blower repairs have been done. The SCADA improvements, Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, those have been done. Belt press filter upgrade, belt press upgrade, that's been completed. We're now using the belt press, and we're not storing influent and effluent samplers. And then the core screen and grit removal system. Larry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall a meeting with BHI and I can't remember the other company that was helping with this one. And that was one of the things that they wanted to see what the fine screens are before they decided to go with a core screen system at the lift station.
Okay, and I'm not familiar with what the core screen is. Not typically, in a membrane plant, you have fine screens. So it must be talking about the lift station or somewhere else.
Correct, it was a
where
core
you have a core
screen offsite influent lift station. At the lift station is what the technical calls out.
So that hasn't been done. There's been no core screen put in at the lift station. Grit removal, that hasn't been done. The belt press is functional. I mean, it wasn't replaced, but it was repaired and it's functional. We use it every week. And the samplers are in. They're hooked to SCADA now, working. There was a lot of SCADA upgrades before I came on board because the PLC was completely replaced. That's the brain that runs the plant, along with upgrades to the HMI. And let's see, what else was on the list?
Blower repairs, and I know we've replaced both the blower
Yeah.
motors.
Correct.
That was all phase one?
No, that was the entire HDR recommendation for alternative one, which was repair the existing plant. Because alternative two was doing the activated sludge technology. Alternate three was doing a sequence batch reactor. And alternate four was an extended aeration technology system. And alternate five was an integrated fixed film active sludge technology. And so the option chosen to go with was fix the existing plant versus building one of those new systems.
So really, at this point, the only part of that first group of things to replace, other than the coarse screen at the lift station, would be the fine screens, which we are in the process of waiting for NMED to approve. The beginning of construction, correct?
Correct. Well, no, there's the core screen and grit removal are the two outstanding,
Okay.
minus the fine screens at the plant.
How much is there a large cost to those things, Mr. Hall?
I don't think the cost would be, well, the grit removal might, just because there's nothing there currently. I guess to be honest with you, I'm a little confused as to why grit removal was brought up. It is pretty common in the industry that you don't see grit removals on plants under 1 million gallons a day, and this plant is so small. The grit removal takes place in the anoxic zones. Anywhere you have the velocity of the water decreased to under 2 feet per second, you get grit that settles out. So it's just not typically seen in a plant this size. I run a lot of plants this size, and none of them have grit removal. So that may have a high cost. So I mean, from my opinion, I think we would really want to weigh, cost versus benefit of that.
Right.
And then with regard to the lift station, do you know, Juan, if it was, I guess it was talking about what was coming into the lift station, or was it talking about what was getting pumped out of the lift station?
All it says on there, Mr. Hall, all it says is the core screen at the off-site influent lift station. It's got an equipment with an estimated $175,000, and then installation at approximately $50,000.
We have not, since I've been involved, we have not had a problem with the lift station pumps plugging. I don't know if that was something that was going on in the past or not. Typically, most lift station pumps can pump solids because that's what they pump. So, with the new fine screens installed, I don't see the reason for a core screen. So, I guess from my vantage point, that's something again that we'd have to look at and weigh the cost versus the benefit.
Okay.
If there are no more questions of Mr. Hall, I would like to call for a motion to approve the second quarter 2021 wastewater treatment plant report.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve this report.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the second quarter 2021 wastewater treatment plant report. How do you vote? Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you very much for your very detailed presentation and review of the wastewater treatment plant report, Mr. Hall. We appreciate what you've done for us and what you continue to do. I look forward to
Welcome.
hearing.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Look forward to hearing from you in the near future. Next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, and action on council meeting minutes for March 10, 2021. Council?
Mayor Pro Tem, I move to approve the council meeting minutes for March 10th, 2021.
Do I hear a second? I'll go ahead and second. We have a motion and a second to approve council meeting minutes for March 10, 2021. Any discussion?
Yeah, did we get all the changes? I keep looking in here and I see no changes in red on this particular. Did we get all the changes that were needed?
That were proposed? No, that's the Word document with the changes with the timestamps on them on this one. I had summarized some concepts in there, but didn't have things in the exact wording in the exact order. And so this is the one where we, where I went back and listened to them and then updated the wording. And so, yeah, the changes are not in there, but they were sent out way back when.
Okay.
So there was one item under discussion items 6BA, and then there were, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, more or less 4 things under calendar review. So if you guys want, I can share my screen and show them to you if you don't have them in front of you.
I don't have them.
Oh, it just says ask the organizer to make me presenter, or just able to share my screen, I guess. Okay. Here we go. Thank you, Jesus. So these were the additions. So the first one is just adding the Municipal League made it clear in town training that any counselor may add agenda items and the voice of the minority is not to be silenced. The majority of the public voted for these changes and wants to be included in an open and transparent way. She asked for information in advance so council could consider decisions carefully during including candidates for council and for Mayor Pro Tem's proposed appointee and Justin's last name. And then adding some things in calendar review. And this is where we were talking about codification, and then I requested a special meeting and I requested the commission manager transition workshop and asked for the availability of council. And then just talking about, again, the ability to bring up agenda items onto the agenda through calendar review, and then adjournment.
So do we want to make those changes to this?
Oh, I'll make a motion to make these changes.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to amend the meeting minutes of March 10th, 2021 with the document that Councilor Jaramillo is presenting. How do you care to move forward on this? Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilor Jaramillo? How do you
Aye.
vote? Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Nay, I personally would like to have that in front of me so I have time to review it before the meeting, and I didn't have that opportunity.
I'll vote nay as well, so we're still on a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes from March 10th as presented in the packet. Councilor Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Nay.
Councilor Abraham?
Nay.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
I'll vote aye, and again, motion dies for lack of a majority. These meeting minutes will persist. Next, we have discussion, consideration, and action on council meeting minutes for April 14th, 2021.
Mayor Pro Tem, on this particular one, we did table them. So I'm going to make a motion to bring the council meeting minutes for April 14th, 2021 off the table.
I'll go ahead. I hear a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to bring these back off the table. How do you vote? Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. I'll stand for a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 14th, 2021. Do I hear a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem, I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for April 14th as corrected in red.
I second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of April 14th, 2021. Any discussion?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, this is Councilor Holly. I would like to make a couple of comments. The changes that were made here, I did go back and listen to the recording, and I felt that the changes that were submitted mischaracterized what I said. And so that being the case, I don't think I'll be able to approve these. I know we're not doing verbatim minutes. I'd be fine with deleting the changes, but I would prefer if they need to stay in there that they be updated, and I'd be happy to do that with what was actually recorded, because I think this is kind of editorializing here and not accurately reflecting what was said at the meeting.
I'm wondering if there are any particular areas, Mayor Pro Tem, councilors, that we could look at as far as editing or deleting so we can get through these. Was there a particular area of concern?
Sorry. On my part, yes, there is. On the bottom of page 3 and the top of page 4. Like I said, I'll be happy to submit what I hear on the recording so we could have both versions to look at for next meeting.
So can we have one of them in red and one of them in blue or something like that to distinguish?
Yeah, I think that can be done.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, so I guess we should.
It's either being pulled for more work.
Well,
We should probably just vote on our original.
we have a motion and a second before the council. So if there's no further discussion, the motion is to approve the council meeting minutes of April 14th, 2021. How do you vote? Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
And Councilor Jaramillo?
Nay.
And Councilor Holly?
Nay.
And I'll vote nay, and we will bring these guys back.
Okay.
Next, we have consideration and action on the council meeting minutes of May 26th, 2021. And I will stand for a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I will go ahead and make a motion to approve council meeting minutes for May 26, 2021.
Do I hear a second? I will
second.
Thank you, Councilor.
And then I would like to make a motion that we add this is the one. Sorry, I thought that we needed to add our additional people present, but now I see them here. Maybe it was a different one. Okay, just a very minor typo on page 5, third paragraph from the bottom. It's read statute 3-14-6A. That's just a small typo there. But I'll make a motion, or I guess I seconded. So, Councilor Holly, if you're fine with that typo correction, then we can probably vote.
All right, Council.
Yes, I'll accept the friendly amendment.
Okay, Council, we have a motion and a second to approve the regular meeting minutes of May 26th, 2021 with the addition of a hyphen on page 5 in the paragraph that reads Councilor Jaramillo read statute 3, it should be -14-6A, etc. How do you vote, Council? Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. We have passed May 26th meeting minutes. Next, we have consideration action on council meeting minutes for June 9th of 2021. I'll stand for the motion.
Mayor Pro Tem, I think this one still needs some work. When I looked at it, I see up at the top when we're listing the people, we need to add P&Z person Tanya Mortensen. This was a public hearing. She was absolutely there, but she's not included in the people present. And then there were multiple discussions with Ms. Nixon about different things that are not reflected in here. And I think, I've got like 3 different places. On page 1, it starts at 13.55. I can send you the transcript of that. And then on page 8 of 10, under discussion, consideration, and action on the approval of financial analysis report, it starts at 2.15. There's quite a discussion there. And then under my counselor comments on the last page, there's another discussion there that I would like to have included as part of this, and it starts at 2.58.
Counselor, do you have a motion?
The motion to make those changes, which I will submit to you. So I think this one still needs work.
Okay, and in the form of a motion, what do you wish to do?
I think we need to bring this back with edits. I make a motion to bring this back to the next council meeting with the edits that I discussed.
Do I hear a second on that motion?
I will second.
A motion and a second to bring this back at the next council meeting with edits made by Councilor Abraham.
Yes, and I'll get those to you this week.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilor Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
I'll go along with the gang. I'll vote aye as well. Next on the agenda, we have consideration and action on council meeting minutes for July 29th, 2021. And I will stand for the motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion to approve council meeting minutes for July 29th, 2021.
I'll go
Second.
ahead. Go ahead. Got a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on these meeting minutes?
I do. I just wanted, for discussion purposes and to let the record reflect, sorry, I had to plug in my battery here. Let the record reflect that I do not agree with leaving discussion out of the council meeting minutes, but for expediency of getting these minutes passed into the official record, and because we do have the audio and video retained, that I will be in favor of passing this item and also August.
Thank you, Council. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilor Abraham, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. We move on to item G, consideration and action on council meeting minutes for August 11th. And I will stand for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the August 11th, 2021 minutes.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion on these?
Just my same comment for the record as the previous minutes.
No further discussion. I will call for a vote. Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. Next, we have discussion, consideration, and action on approval of a final location for a BMX bike park in Edgewood, New Mexico, and concurrence on asking for additional bids for the construction of said bike park. Council, I believe, Councilor Abraham, this would be your topic.
It is. And I brought this because when we talked about this at the budget process, everybody was really excited to hear from the young man who presented this, Eric, and his team of people. Everybody sounded like they really wanted it. And then it did not get approved because of location. So in your packet, you have several documents that include the Section 16 master plan that we did in cooperation with the State Land Office. We have the Edgewood Town Commons Recreational Facilities conceptual drawing that we approved August the 11th of 2016. And on there, you can see that there's lots of space there, and there are lots of locations. If you look at the Edgewood Town Commons Recreational Facility, you'll see up there near the top, there actually is listed a BMX bike park. So while none of the rest of this stuff is built, I thought we have plenty of space to start talking about where would we actually like to put a BMX bike park? It sounded like all of you were in favor of it, just maybe not the location. So, I'm here to see what you guys think about the location that we approved back in 2016, and or if there's another location on this huge parcel of property that has lots of space for parks. If there's another location that maybe we could come to agreement on, so that we could look forward to maybe actually doing this.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I remember, I think that it was Councilor Holliday that was concerned about location, so I would like to hear from her if she wants to talk about it.
Well, I was kind of surprised this was on the agenda tonight because we're talking about a location, but I don't know that we've discussed how big this is going to be. Is it going to be something that we want to encourage people to come up for competitions, or is it just going to be for local use? I think there's a lot more discussion that needs to be had before, we point to something on the map and say, yeah, let's put it there.
So the good news is about, if we decide that we want to move forward with this, then we can have subsequent meetings about where do we want it to grow from here. These things come, you can get them in lots of different pieces. You could get like a starter package that can be added on to later. This location that is mapped out here is very, very large, much bigger than most BMX bike parks. So we could start out small at that location and then build it as people come, or as the community uses it. This is a starting point. This is something we have on our ICIP that we've had on there for a very long time. There was one point where, what was it, in 2018 or 19, that we actually had received some money had it not been vetoed to build this park. So, there is interest in the community. It's been supported by, previous administrations and governing body members. So I just would like us to take a look at it again before we just dash, this young man's hope of ever seeing this come to fruition in his lifetime.
So this location is it's to the northwest of the pavilion. Is that right?
It's actually basically almost a little bit northwest, but mostly basically west. Toward the end of the property that that the town has.
And so those three rectangles, the red and green, what are those? Those are additional soccer fields?
Well,
No, the three large triangles near...
How much? The rectangles?
Oh, okay. The three large rectangles there, those are all future soccer fields. And then
Okay.
you see the half circle things up there that are baseball diamonds. And you see our pavilion back here by the second soccer field, and it says it's got restrooms and a concession stand. There's a dog park in there. There's lots of things that have been proposed to go in here.
Oh no! So the pavilion is okay. This road wasn't marked, but that must be 344.
Yes.
Okay, so we just have this first soccer field there, then we have the pavilion plus restroom plus concession. The BMX park is pretty far.
It is.
Yeah.
If we intend on building all of this, you know, if we plan on only doing the 3 soccer fields, then we could do it right behind there.
This is in our master plan
Right.
already. It's already approved in here.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's just kind of picking a location that we would like to, and then talk about, you know, do we want to start with the beginner one? Do we want to go ahead and, you know, look for the funding to do something really big that could be, have competitions, or, you know, kind of what are your thoughts on that, you know?
What is this yellow box by the creative playground?
That is, I believe, was going to be another, grandstand kind of thing, or something like that. It was going to be a covered event.
Okay, so people could sit and watch the games.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and all of this is conceptual. But it just goes to show the amount of space that we have to choose from.
Well, when you talk about the amount of space, do you have dimensions for a beginner BMX park? Do we know what the dimensions are of this location on the map?
I could get you that.
That's what I mean. I think, you know, we need to have more discussion about this. I don't know that we're ready to take action.
Okay, but do you see any location on here that you like?
I think it would also be helpful to have input from the professionals. I see you've also included in the package this conceptual design services form, and on it do speak to a site review, and plural. It says review the sites of the future bike recreation area and identify opportunities and constraints. And so, you know, I think we have to be cognizant of the topography too, of the location that
And I did include a topo map in there as well. But it's one of those things we have to start somewhere. You know, do we want it west of the current soccer field, north of the soccer field? Where do you think would be convenient for the community to come? You know, the middle school is over there. You know, it might be nice to maybe have it on the other side of Bachelor Draw, where it shows the lake is, you know. I doubt we're ever going to have a lake there.
But that may be the best place for it if we had one, based on the topography.
It probably would be the best place for a lake, but possibly we would want a BMX bike park there, you know. We could, you know, if you guys are interested, we can have the gentleman come and give us a presentation, but I just felt kind of shot down at the budget process. Like, you just weren't interested. You didn't like that location, so you just weren't interested. I guess I'm trying to see, are you interested? And is this something we want to pursue?
I do.
And at the time I said I was too, I still am. I just don't think we've got enough information yet.
Well,
Location would have to be the first information. I mean, choosing a location is going to have to be the first step.
well, perhaps having the progressive biker ramps.com people come in at least for one meeting to discuss size and topography and what would be best might be a better place to start, because we know we've got a piece of property. We know that somewhere on that piece of property we could put it, but the question is, where on that piece of property will the engineering be the easiest, the earth moving be the easiest, and the most cost effective for us? And I think having the professionals take a look at the topography and look at the area itself. I mean, we could put it where the plan, the previous conceptual drawings have it, if that's the right spot for it. But I don't know where the right spot would be. I don't know where it would be easiest to build it. I don't know what, if it needs to be on a flat spot or if it's better on a little bit of an incline, or, where we should do that. I would certainly be in favor of bringing someone in and having some consultation and some maybe a site visit or two to walk around and have the guys take a look at it and say, yeah, this would be a great spot, or, oh geez, we can't do it here. We'd have to have this, this, or this. I don't know that I can make a decision right now.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
if I were to make a motion to at November 1st meeting, to talk to the progressive bike ramp people, to invite them to come present to us and to send them some pictures or whatever they need to help us choose a site.
Yeah, I mean, sure. If that's how you want to move forward with it, we certainly can. I'd be in favor of having somebody come and give us some direction, because I've never built a BMX bike park before, so I don't know what we need.
And the other consideration I had was, are we going to need parking? Are people going to be trailering their bikes here and need a place to park?
Well, they could park at the soccer field.
Depending upon where we put it, I think that's a design discussion that we need to have in the future. So, that's part of the whole thing with, okay, where shall we put it? What do we need?
Right.
And if we can piggyback on the parking that's there, yay rah. If not, then if we have to cut a road and gravel a parking lot. I mean, there's a lot of considerations, but I don't know what they all are, and I'm sure these guys do.
Right.
In thinking of the location question, Councilor Abraham, which is really what you're trying to get at here, I would prefer to have it maybe where it is in the master plan, because I do think that the 3 soccer fields by the pavilion is a good idea. The AYSO, and I just remember from my kiddos taking them to soccer, the fields are just so needed out here. And I really don't want to, it's better to have them all together, because sometimes you might have, differing ages of your kids, and one are on one field or another field, and you don't want them too far apart, so it just makes sense to keep those soccer fields together.
Right.
And then I don't know about the needs for baseball diamonds that comes next to the west, right? But I'm sure that's something that we could find out if they're really, really needed out here. Does anybody know? Anyone's grandkids or kids play
There are
baseball or
little there
softball?
are little leaguers who use the 2 baseball diamonds on site here at the school. So I mean that is there is activity. Now whether or not
Okay.
it justifies 2 more, I don't know. And you know whether the school is going to allow the little league to use their fields in perpetuity, I don't know. So
Right.
you know there's a lot of things that we kind of have to play by ear. Of course,
And I know a lot of churches have like softball teams and stuff like that, you know, that right now everybody has to go to Albuquerque to do those things. But, you know, in the future it would be nice to maybe host some of those, or at least have local churches be able to do softball here.
That would be very nice. Even adults
Right.
definitely would use it for sure. So yeah, I tend to like where it's originally designed at, and also I don't know how dusty it would be, but that's something that's probably, you know, it's probably a better location where it's at right here in the master plan. And then as far as size, we would want to get, well, that's the other question on here, asking for additional bids on construction of said bike park. So, you know, I'm sure that they would be able to give bids for different sizes. And of course,
Right.
we
Their
create
website-
what we want, you know.
Their website has a lot of information on there about, like, you know, you can do like modular tracks that are not permanent. You can do paved tracks. You can do dirt tracks. There are a lot of different options based upon, you know, your funding, your location, what your community is looking for, and even the size of land that you're willing to put up. So, you know, I did have a meeting with Eric and Josh from Progressive Bike Ramps was there. He was able to talk to us and tell us some things. And they would probably do like some kind of drone flyover kind of thing to get an idea, and then come up with some you know, design ideas for us. But
sounds like the
Just
on-site
something-
consultation is what we need.
right.
My next concern that I was gonna talk about is from a procurement standpoint. I think
We have
you
to
know,
get 3 bids.
yeah, and maybe, you know, it's quotes, it's not necessarily bids. It looks like this is pretty reasonable. Their conceptual design package, and then their hourly rates, I'm like, wow, that's very, very reasonable for hourly rates. But we can't just assume that we're going with these guys. So I would hate to just have them come out and do all this work and fly their drone and give us advice, and then all of a sudden, oops, we got a quote that was lower, or, you know, that's not very nice. So,
Right.
in my opinion, and, you know, maybe I'll just make the motion now, if that's okay. I'll make a motion that we seek out bids for the construction of a possible bike park with options on size and location. And that way, whoever does want to provide a quote can give us that consultation. So that's my motion.
Okay. I'll second that.
Okay, so could you restate that motion one more time? Want to be sure
hope
that
so.
we've got this clear.
I make a motion to request bids or quotes for the construction of a bike park with options for sizes and locations.
So we have a motion and a second to request bids or quotes for a bicycle park
we want to talk about a location or just get quotes and let them help us choose the location?
Okay, so the motion is a request for bids or quotes for a bicycle park, and we're
with options for sizes and locations, because that's what you guys are saying we need consultation on. But what I'm saying is that we can't just go to one vendor and say, please consult with us for free and do all this work, and then, you know,
well, these guys aren't free. These guys aren't free. Their public meetings and site visits are $100. And you know, if they're going to do any computer imaging, that's $70, and that's an hour. And by the way, these rates are hourly, so it's $100 an hour to come talk to us. And it's you know, it's $70 an hour to do computer imaging or CAD drawings. If they're going to do any design work, that's $70 an hour. So you know, this is you know, if they want to fly through with a drone, it's $2,000. So we're starting to talk money here, and what I'm curious about is, you know, if we're going to have consultation, you know, maybe that's what this motion kind of needs to be about. You know, perhaps this is a budgetary issue. Perhaps we ought to set a budget and a number of hours to consult with this group, and then take their consultation and go out for bids. If they win the bid, great. You know, I mean, we do this with design engineers all the time. We ask the engineers to design something, and then we go out to bids for somebody to build it. I mean, that's what we do. So
I think the concern is we need to go out to get quotes to even have somebody give us a conceptual design. I don't think
in the industry.
Yeah. So I think, you know, maybe we need to get some quotes on conceptual design services that can, you know, then the winner of that comes and gives us the conceptual design. I think I got what you were saying, Councilor Jaramillo.
Yes, that does make sense. That it's not necessarily tied into the construction. It's the design and information that we're looking for here, and maybe we could just you know, let them know we have a small purchase. I don't know. I can't remember if it's 5,000. But we could request, you know, just a cap on the services, if that helps, and, you know, reach out to a few different companies. There probably aren't too many that specialize in this, but there's probably at least two.
Well, there's probably, well, I know USA, BMX USA, they do, you know, design and concepts. And this one, and you know, I'm sure we can find at least 3 to get a bid, you know, to come look at our site, tell us what it might cost, what different options we could look at to do. I still kind of feel like we're putting the cart before the horse. I think we don't have our parameters together, our requirements. I don't think we've got a plan, and I don't know if there's a group, a company, an organization in the state of New Mexico, you know, that would be easier to have come and talk to us than somebody out in Missouri. I just think we need a plan before we just go and ask for bids for we don't know what we want. So we do know what we want. We want a pump track and a BMX bike park. And now, first of all, you know what you want. You know where you want it. We want it on section 16, I believe, is where we want it. And we need to find out how much would it cost, what are our options. Like I said, do we want a modular track set up based upon price? Do we want a paved track based upon price? Do we want a dirt track based upon price? Do we want one we can build onto, which to me makes sense? Start with something that you can add on to as the demand grows. But we have to start somewhere. Just like with a project, you start with engineering. Well, the design concept is part of that process. And I only brought this person because this is the person that Eric had been consulting with when he brought this project to us.
So it sounds like we'd have to pay for some ideas before we could get a plan.
And then do we have a budget, like Mayor Pro Tem said? You know, what's our budget for this? How much are we going to spend overall?
Well, my thought was to ask for, you know, I had originally in the budget thing asked for $30,000 to see what we could do to get started. This looks like for about $10,000, we should be able to find somebody to give us a total interactive professional conceptual design package, either through this company or someone else.
Since Councilor Jaramillo made a stab at a motion, if she does not mind, I would like to try a stab at a motion too, because I don't believe I heard a second. So.
Okay, sure, I'll withdraw my motion.
Thank you, Councilor. I would like to make a motion to create an RFP for design concepts for a BMX track on the section 16 within the master planned area.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion to go out for RFP on design concepts for a BMX track on section 16 in the master plan area. Any further discussion?
Just that would come back to us for approval before it goes out, right?
Well, we'll have to first write an RFP. RFP's got to get a review, so yeah. And we don't have a concept right yet of what it's going to cost, but if we have an RFP, then somebody's going to tell us this is what it's going to cost to design it.
Right.
Okay.
Any further discussion? How do you vote? Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Hawley?
Aye.
Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
I'll vote for this one as well. We are going to put together an RFP for design concepts for a BMX track on section 16 in the master planned area. Next on the agenda, we have discussion, consideration, and action on approval of the recommendation of the Town of Edgewood's Lodgers Tax Board to award $22,893.34 in lodgers tax funds for the Celtic Fest. $2,500 and the pavilion at Venus Park, $20,393.34. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to approve the Lodgers Board Award for $22,893.34.
I will second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. Councilor Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Hawley, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilor Abraham, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Next on the agenda, we have discussion, consideration, and action on adding planning documents to the capital assets list of the town of Edgewood. Councilor Jaramillo, I believe this is your topic.
My topic. I was asking for information on the plan for that, and so I guess I'll have to ask Juan to give us an update on the plan for this. I know we received a flash drive of a lot of different documents, but Juan, can you address it?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, so we went through and found all the plans that the town had, compiled them, and basically brought them forth. And I guess the question is, what plans do you want to put on the capital asset list, and what value do you want to assign some of them? Because some of them we have no costs. What was provided, there's, we've since changed financial systems. We don't have some of the historical information, but I guess, this was a new one for me. I've never had planning documents go on a capital asset list. So I guess the decision is, what plans do you guys want to put on there?
Okay, so I'm not sure when or in what context we were discussing this, but for the standards and the GASB world for capital assets, if something is in progress, like construction in progress, and there are engineering plans or things that are still pending that these projects and infrastructure or assets haven't been placed in service yet, then those items do go into this construction in progress bucket, I would describe it as, and that's where you would put all of the costs that come into making that asset placed in service. Then, once it's placed in service and in use, you transfer it out of the construction in progress bucket and put that into buildings or streets or whatever whatever category it goes into. So all of the cost to put the asset into service goes in that CIP, which would include any engineering plans or other plans that kind of the cost of that goes into that particular asset or project. And then you capitalize them, which just means you take it out of CIP and put it into the asset category, so that then once it is in service, you can begin depreciation. And you just take straight line depreciation over its useful life, and the cost that went into that building, for example, or that street, you can then depreciate it over time of the useful life of the asset. So I guess the question would be, which of these are connected to something that's still in progress, like construction in progress?
So do you mean like so the technical memo, would that be considered, because we're still working on making those upgrades and installing those items?
Yes, it could be.
Okay. And so because some of the documents that were on there were like the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, that doesn't seem relevant to me as far as capitalization for capitalizing items. Like I said, it has to be the cost of placing an asset into service.
So Church Street, the design of Church Street, the design of the trestle bridge, the other projects that we're working on right now, Edgewood 7, those kinds of things, the design for those, and the cost associated with that.
Okay, right, right.
Mayor Pro Tem
Yeah, the
Councilor,
comp
so
plan
those
wouldn't
items
be-
are currently on CIP. Church Street, the Trestle Bridge, Edgewood 7 design will be added to that. So the current projects that we're actually working on are on CIP. This was the list, based upon what our auditors told us that we're supposed to have all of our plans on there. So we went through and pulled all of our plans. And so, like I said, you guys determine the capital assets. So you let me know which ones you want added onto the list, and I will put them on there.
Okay, so I was wondering what context this was coming from, and I didn't talk to the auditors about adding on like the comp plan or anything like that. The only context I know of it is CIP. So if you're saying everything is in there, I guess I would be curious to hear from, or what it is that the auditors told you, so I could understand a little better where they're coming from.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, so I was told, Councilor Adamio specifically, that you were the one that requested this be placed on there. And this is what we went off of. I mean, we thought we had everything on our capital assets list with respect to plans and things moving forward. And so, yeah, that's literally what we were told. And
I don't even remember speaking to the auditors last year. I know I talked to Marianne the year before, and there were some issues with some things. I was trying to get information from her and never ended up getting details on the capital assets from her. But yeah, last year I have no idea where that's coming from. Like I said, all I know is if we have something in process, then yes, it should be, in CIP. But maybe what we could do is get the listing of CIP and just go through and make sure that everything is there as far as the plans. Oh, Miss Holly, Councilor Holly, you're muted.
Thank you. It sounded to me like what Mr. Torres said, that everything that needs to be assigned to the CIP projects are already there. And these were those that he had found outstanding. So, in your professional opinion, Councilor Jaramillo, I wonder if you could just look through this list of 22, and decide if they needed to be included in the capital assets. Because it doesn't sound to me like the comprehensive plan would.
No.
Or the Edgewood Commons master plan. There was a feasibility study for the hotel.
Now, I do remember last year when we were talking about certifying the capital assets listing, one of the ideas that I had always had for making sure that our infrastructure was all on the capital assets like it should be, was going through our capital outlay dollars that we've received since the beginning of time in the town to the extent we can, right? And taking a look at engineering that had been done and all of that, just to make sure that the assets that came out of those fundings and those reports are actually on our books. That could have been, if they listened to the audio or, of our discussions last year, that could be what they're talking about. In that case, we would, go through and check and see which assets came out of there. So I'm reading the list here.
I just have a real quick question that might clarify things, maybe, I don't know. If everything that we're doing in design and construction right now is accounted for, and these are the items that are outstanding, and we don't have any other construction or anything moving forward on any of these, that would eliminate these 22 items? Is that, Councilor Jaramillo, is that a reasonable assumption?
Well, I guess again, I'm trying to understand what it is the auditors are saying, but is it in the finding one? Maybe I could read the finding and see if it's something there that they mentioned.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem Council, give me 1 second, I'll pull it up.
Okay, maybe that would give us some insight on their goal here. But again, to answer your question, Mayor Pro Tem, these, I guess you could call them plans or reports, anything that's going into the construction of an asset, the cost of placing an asset in service would include things like engineering. But if it's just a general, like the master plan, that's not connected to a particular asset, and so that would be eliminated. Now, with that being said, though, what I'm just thinking here maybe that they're asking for is, I did mention last year as we were saying, okay, how do we get this capital assets listing correct and accurate before we certify it? What I was saying was an idea was to go through each of the plans that the town has done, like the engineering reports, and make sure that the asset that it related to ended up, or as one of my clients would say, landed up on the capital assets listing. And so that way we know that all of our infrastructure is on that capital assets list. So I guess, like if the drainage report was for a particular project, but I don't think it was. I think that was just a report in general, right? So that one would come off the list. The PER for water system purchase, well, that one, that just kind of, there's never been a vote on that. That's never been approved by council. And but the money was spent, and it would be money going into the purchase of an asset. So in theory, that one would go into the CIP bucket or like a holding place until something was decided on FCOR. The comprehensive use plan, that would be no. Sewer collection system expansion, that would be yes until it's finished with what we're doing there. I think that was the engineering, right? Mm-hmm. The technical memo, we talked about that one, that would be in there. Engineering report for the water reclamation facility, is that still in progress?
I don't think we're going to build one.
Okay, so then that would be no. The valuation is yes. The wastewater system asset management plan would be no, because that's broad. It's not relating to a particular asset, placing it in service. Edgewood Commons master plan, no. Economic impact of Comfort Inn and Suites, no. Feasibility study, no. I-40 location study, DOT project number, is that something being constructed now, or is that in the past?
That's
2010.
That's something I think we had to do for US DOT, but NMDOT, US DOT, Federal Highway Administration, I don't know what that is.
Okay, so we'd have to know the project number.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, that is the intersection, the new intersection corridor study.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing. What did you say?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, that is the I-40 interchange location study, the corridor, basically for the new interchanges, potential interchanges in Edgewood.
Okay. All right, so that's not an interchange that we would be doing, but rather DOT, so that's not our asset, right?
Right.
let's see, specification of section 16 athletic field. Well, that would be yes, and that's already been placed in service. So the cost of that should be added into, you know, whatever infrastructure and things that we put in there.
Seems to me like it was added into the cost of the athletic field, but okay.
Okay. Good. Sewer rate study? No, that's just on rates, not an asset. Comprehensive land? No. And wastewater, okay, 6 and 7 would be just, you know, depending on, you know, the asset that these things created should be in our infrastructure.
Yeah, those look like the original engineering reports for the construction of the wastewater plant, and I would be very surprised if that was not included in the construction costs of the wastewater plant.
Okay. Let's see, environmental assessment for
That's just
I-40.
That's the I-40. Yeah.
Okay, so that wouldn't be because it's not an asset, our asset anyway. Municipal center design. Now that's
I don't think that ever got done. That never got done.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, isn't that like the town hall cowboy hat building or something?
Yeah, that's what that is.
a cowboy hat.
Oh yes.
Did I hear that?
Yes, you did.
Wow. Okay, master plan is no. Treatment engineering report, wastewater number 2 would be yes. And the comprehensive plan, no. So.
Well, if you would
Yeah,
mark up a copy of that and send it to us, we can verify it. I guess.
Sure.
I don't know what else to do. I mean, most of these are costed anyway. They're very. Some of them go back to the founding of the town. So I mean, it's.
Yeah, and I think we're just trying to make sure to capture all of the infrastructure.
The current
Yeah, but you know, with the infrastructure, once you put it in, I mean, it lasts a long time, like 40 years or something. So we have to make sure that all of our streets, all of the sewer stuff, everything is on the capital assets listing. So it's not necessarily just the plans we're talking about here. We're talking about the resulting assets of the town. And unfortunately, you know, I think that the capital assets listing has been incomplete for a very long time, at least 10, 12 years. So.
There's nothing on here about the roads we paved, you know, Horton or Walker.
That's because they're already on there.
Okay.
So do we have?
And now we have the vote. Was it BHI that did the road assessment, and so now we know the cost of our streets that should be on the capital assets. We have that report this year. I think it came out in February.
Those were on there as well.
Yeah, that's all on the list. So
okay, guys, I'll mark this up and.
So I don't think we need a motion on this, Councilor Harmia. If you'll mark it up and forward it to the clerk, I think we can get that cleared up. And so,
okay.
If there's no other discussion, we can move on.
Okay.
Discussion, consideration, and action on the approval of financial report for the month of July 2021. Council, I'll stand for a motion.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion to approve the financial report for the month of July 2021.
And I'll go ahead and second to move things along just a bit. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I will call a vote. Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Next, we have consideration and action on approval of the financial report for the month of August 2021. And I will make a motion to approve the financial report for the month of August 2021. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I did have some question on these. I see that we're pumping, Atlas Pumping is pumping a lot. What are they pumping?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, if you recall Larry Hall talking about how he had to pump out the chamber so he can get in there and they can do that repair removals of stuff on the diffusers. They had to.
Oh, okay.
That's what they were pumping out those basins to do that.
Okay. That was really the only thing I saw that looked odd.
Okay. Well, council, let's, I'll ask for a vote. Counselor Jaramillo.
Aye.
Counselor Holly.
Aye.
And Counselor Abraham.
Aye.
Moving on, discussion, consideration and action, asking for a consensus on how to respond to the City of Albuquerque's offer regarding lands located within the town of Edgewood. Council, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem Council, so we were approached by the City of Albuquerque with all these various parcels that they have, and they basically reached out to us to ask if the town of Edgewood would like to purchase any of them. They want to see if we have any interest before they go through the process of getting an appraisal and going through the whole going through all of that. And they said they'd be willing to do some sort of real estate contract or some sort of agreement, so we don't have to pay for it all up front. But they wanted to know if there was any interest before they proceeded, because they didn't want to go through the cost of getting appraisals and all of that if there's no interest of the town to do that. And if not, they'll just hang on to it. There's let's see, Edgewood Tract K. That is the one that borders and would potentially give us some access into our elusive section. And I recall Roger Holden trying for the longest time, trying to get access to that, and the City of Albuquerque never responded back or never seemed willing to sell, so now they're willing to sell. And then there's other tracks as well, but I guess what the City of Albuquerque was asking us is if you as the governing body have any interest before they decide to move forward.
So this tract K, would it give us access into there, or is it going to be just more land that we can't use?
Well, it would probably give us the best access that we have. If you look on the map, you can see it looks like there's a road that clearly goes in there. It's still not the best access to the property, but at least there's an access. I mean, there would still have to be some work with the county for CR2 to fix that thing up to make it drivable, but
So let me see if I've got the locations on this map correct. This is the parcel that is directly on the corner of Founders Ranch. Is that correct?
that is correct.
So there is already a road to the corner of this parcel, and then we would have the ability to go in at the draw that's just a bit to the north. Or we could go in from Best View and Sooner, well, not Schooner, but Best View, I guess, and then that little jog straight in, if we could, if that's a public throughfare. Is that correct?
Yeah, if that's a public throughfut, yes, that's definitely a possible route.
Okay, so that would possibly give us two routes into section 30. Is it 34? No, yeah. Yeah, it's section 34.
32. Isn't it section 32?
32. Because 32 is on the boundary of this. on the east boundary, I guess.
Yeah. So have they given us any idea at all as to how much per acre they're looking for?
No, Pro Tem Council, so they want to know if you're even interested before they go through the expense of getting it appraised.
How many acres is that one?
A couple of these say Farmington, but I'm assuming that they're just typos. And are all of these within town limits?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, none of them are within town limits currently.
We would make them within town limits.
But they're like within the boundary of Edgewood, correct?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, no, not all of them.
The section K that we were looking at is it is in Santa Fe County. It is one corner of it, I think, is in Bernalillo County.
Mayor Pro Tem, no, all of that is in.
It is all in Santa Fe.
That is all in Santa Fe County.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all in Santa Fe County.
Now, that one that says Farmington Tract L, that is in Torrance County, and that's the one just below that section. So you can see on that map part of it where it says Torrance on the picture. That's actually Founders Ranch right there, and then that little L shape goes up, and that's adjacent to our section that we have, our open space section. And that road is Lost Canyon Road, and then that goes to that one section.
It goes all the way through.
80 acres of BLM that Roger was talking about once upon a time that would need to be remediated or something.
Oh yeah, it has all the lead on it.
Correct, from everyone going out there to shoot.
Gosh, I wish they made a lead magnet.
And actually, isn't that road so steep that you couldn't even get in there anyway, correct? Isn't that what he said?
It is very steep on that corner of Santa Fe, where Santa Fe County and Torrance County meet. It is possible, well, it's still a rough road to get in through Lost Canyon Road. That's actually the way I've gotten in there in the past, is through Lost Canyon Road, because the other one is pretty rough. And there are some unforgiving rocks on there. I mean, if you've got one of those Jeeps and like to rock crawl, that's a great place to go. But yeah, not for my vehicle.
And do we know how did the city come to own this property in the first place?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, so I'm not exactly sure on all of the property, but I do know some of the property was part of that Albuquerque Academy land swap deal that they did in the past. Specifically that one that says Tract K, the 169.1 acres.
And what did they do for that?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, I believe they traded land. They traded for this land and other parcels for the
Elena Gallegos. Was that it?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Well, which of this would be most advantageous for us if we were interested? We probably don't want it all, do we?
You know, the two pieces that I think could be of interest are the Tract K and the Tract L. I'm not sure what M and O would do for us. And I'm not getting really well oriented to figure out where P and Q are. I just know that they're both in Torrance. And R and S, I don't quite know where they are as well.
No,
I
Mayor
think
Pro Tem Council, they all
they're deep
progressively
in
get
Torrance County.
further south in Torrance County.
Yeah, they're deep down in south in Torrance County. So I think,
Oh, I know. I was just gonna say, I know where Ballinger Ranch is. That's pretty far.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm thinking that perhaps there, that we might find interest in Tract K and L. Definitely Tract K, maybe Tract L.
And what about, where is O, that's 40 acres?
I don't know where K Road is. If that's K.
This is in Torrance, though?
It's in Torrance County, so yeah.
I kind of think we're in enough counties without extending to Torrance.
Yeah. That's why I'm looking at K very, very fondly, but I'm questioning.
Well, that's the one that Roger was always interested in, to have a way into Section 32.
Yep.
Because Section 32 doesn't really give us, I mean, it's a wonderful piece of property, but if you can't get in there,
Well, this would certainly give us the end of that road and a couple of different options, I think. Up through the canyon there is probably the best.
Mayor Pro Tem Council also, if you recall, that was also one of the properties that Roger was trying to get an agreement to allow parking on that very southwestern tip, to create a parking lot so people could walk in. So that's also a potential option as well.
yeah.
Well, I, for one, am definitely interested in getting more details on both Tract K and L. So it's not going to hurt to get more information.
Are any of these part of their trail system? Their current trail system?
I don't think so.
Okay. I think we could tell them we're possibly interested in those two, K and L.
Yeah, I think so too. I am just kind of reflecting on trying to figure out location on the others, but it's very hard to tell. But we know that they're in Torrance County and probably pretty far south. But open space is very important. Definitely one of the things that everyone loves about Edgewood is having open space and just quality of life and outdoor living and hiking and equestrian and all of that. So I would say I'm definitely interested in K and L as well. And I'm kind of just curious where these others are at in relation to K and L.
Maybe we could ask them for like a big map that shows all of these on there.
Well, I'm just looking on Google Maps now, Mayor Council. Looks like it's about 2 miles south of Martinez Road.
Yeah. So I'm not quite sure exactly what we need to do to proceed here. Just a consensus on taking action to request more information, I think, is probably where we're at. And so
Okay.
far I've heard positive consensus to move forward on getting that information on at least K and L, and perhaps more
Yes.
information on the other parcels as to their location.
Sure.
I'm seeing nods and approval on that. Then what we will do then is take this forward and reply to the city of Albuquerque, requesting more information on the sections, their locations, perhaps.
Okay.
And of course, they were asking if we were interested in a purchase, so they would be then going out to get an appraisal. Would that be a way to proceed, is to ask them for that appraisal, or would that be jumping the gun?
Well, I think we need to see where they're at to see which ones we might be interested in. I mean, they're going to have to do appraisals on them if they're going to sell them anyway. But we don't need appraisals for something that's so far down in Torrance County, we're never going to be able to use it.
Yeah, well, Mr. Torres was saying that O was about 2 miles south of Martinez Road. I think that's kind of out of our bounds.
Yeah.
So the only two that I can see that I know where they are exactly are K and L, and I think we could ask them for more information on K and L, and the more information, of course, would be an appraisal.
Right.
Okay. Do I get a nod from everyone on going forward with that?
I think we should just vote.
Okay, we can vote.
Well, you were asking for a consensus on the agenda.
Yes, we were just asking for consensus. I mean, I can make a motion to get more information on sections K and L as offered by the city of Albuquerque. If that would.
And I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second and a vote. Councilor Harmeal.
Aye.
Councilor Holly.
Aye.
Councilor Abraham.
Aye.
I'll vote aye as well. That's unanimous. We will ask the city of Albuquerque to tell us how much. Next on the
Mayor Pro
agenda.
Tem, I was just going to ask for a 5-minute break.
For a 5-minute break. Okay. We can take a 5-minute break if everyone is amenable.
Yes.
We are recessed for 5 minutes. We'll be back in 5 whole minutes. Did you go again? All righty. There we go. All right. Well, council, we're all back. Go back into session out of our recess. Next on the agenda is a discussion, consideration, and action on approval of Resolution 2021-19, a budget adjustment for the Roads Department to allow for funds to cover vehicle maintenance agreements for the John Deere motor grader, for the roller, and for the purchase of a pintle hitch trailer to haul the roller. Chuck, do you want to talk to this one?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. The maintenance agreements are needed. The equipment are just something that we cannot maintain in the shop. Far beyond our capabilities. So definitely a needed item. And the trailer, I need to be able to get the roller to and from the job sites. Roading it down the road takes It would take me an hour to get to a job site.
A roller is
And
not a fast
not to mention
vehicle.
it would just wear it out and tear
That's
the
not a
machine up.
Ferrari roller?
Well, we can probably put some flames on it, but short of that, no, it's not a fast-moving piece of equipment.
Thank you, Chuck.
Mayor Pro Tem Council Chuck, can you explain how that maintenance works as well with this type of agreement, how they actually monitor it and they...
Sure. For the grader, they can actually tap into the grader and they tell us when it needs to be maintained. And they physically come to our yard and maintain the piece of equipment. So they can link up to it via satellite, tell us exactly where it is, exactly how many hours are on it, exactly when it's running, when it's not running. It's actually pretty in-depth what they could tell just by linking up to it. So as far as the grader goes, they can link to, but both rollers, and this is for 3 pieces of equipment. It would be the grader and both rollers.
Okay.
So the rollers, we would just need to track hours, let them know when the services are needed. And once again, they come to our yard and maintain the equipment in our yard versus paying somebody to load it up, take it to the shop, and then have it for a week or however many days it would take to service the equipment and bring it back to us.
So, Council, I believe that during our budget discussions, we did discuss this, and unfortunately, at that particular point in time, we did not have the totals. So we are coming back to you now with the totals and this budget adjustment. Are there any questions? Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-19, a budget resolution authorizing budget adjustments for maintenance contracts for equipment and machinery in the total amount of $103,225. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Council?
I'll second.
Okay, there we go. I heard, but I couldn't tell who seconded. Thank you, Counselor. We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Counselor Jaramillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Counselor Holly?
Aye.
And Counselor Abraham?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Thank you, Council. Next on our agenda, discussion, consideration, and action on Resolution 2021-18, a resolution regarding novel coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, emergency disaster response for the town of Edgewood, New Mexico. Council, you have 2 versions of this in front of you. Both of them are similar, and I will stand for a motion. We have version A and version B. Do I hear a motion from anyone? I will make a motion to approve version B because I think I have a chance of getting there. So version B of Resolution 2021-18, I make a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to offer a friendly amendment.
Certainly.
On page, well, it would be page 2 of version B. The second line from the bottom, I'll start at the beginning of the sentence. All other public events, trainings, and all such similar gatherings planned to be held, I'd like to insert indoors, in or on town facilities, and attended by members of the public are hereby required to have facial coverings and appropriate distancing until further notice. And then I would like to insert the sentence, outdoor events will not require facial coverings.
I'll accept that friendly amendment.
And then finally, the date of approval too needs to be updated.
Oh, yeah, we're a little bit past that.
Thank you.
I have a question. Why do we have town hall closed to the public except for by appointment, yet we're still hosting weekend events all the time? I'm just kind of confused by that. That seems to be two conflicting. I mean, if we're wanting to protect our employees, why are we having them host events?
Well, the events that we're hosting are out of doors,
Right.
and they're in a big field in the open air.
Okay.
And the other thing I understand is that planning had begun quite a while ago, and so plans were put in motion already for these events.
Okay. All right. I would, if we're going to do resolution B, I also have some changes. The second whereas, it talks about that last part, implement a plan for distribution and administration of vaccines to achieve high community average coverage. I don't think that as a town, we should be immunizing anybody. I think that is just not what we're supposed to be doing. So I would strike that sentence.
Counselor,
And
before you go forward with that request, I'll remind you that we have already been working with the State Department of Health to have vaccination clinics. We've held several, and they've been quite successful. So, I mean, we've already done that. I don't see any harm in it remaining there. It's not the town that's actually giving vaccinations. All we are doing is helping to implement plans for distribution.
well, it says local governments should issue policies, directives mandating universal use of face masks in indoor settings, avoid the use of non-essential outdoor spaces, limit contacts and promote physical distancing, and implement a plan. So it sounds to me like they're expecting the town to implement a plan to do this. And, you know, it's one thing to host an event, but I don't think we should be implementing a plan for distribution and administration of vaccines.
Counselor, I'd kind of like to remind you that this is the exact language that you passed previously.
Right. And then I would like to remove the whereas that talks about state employees, because that does not apply to us at all either. So the fourth whereas, I would like to remove that.
And,
My comments, I did take a look at the press conference that happened today, and saw that at the time we were considering all of this probably in August, and when the Delta variant had actually peaked, but the numbers have really dropped significantly since then, to where I just don't believe that this resolution is necessary at this time. We are in our county, Santa Fe County, 80.4% fully vaccinated, and I did take a look at the CDC's website, and they did a study where they showed that between 65 and 75% vaccinated would be equal to herd immunity. And so we are past that, and being fully vaccinated 80.4%. And I think there were only about 13 cases in the entire county in September. We definitely made our target. I checked to look at our goal on the number of positive cases, and we're well below that. Hospitalizations are down, and deaths took a very sharp decrease in September. And so based on all of these facts and the really, really small impact, I just hate to impact town employees and the public any further. I think that we are all adults. We can all take care of ourselves. We understand where certain things are required, where they're not. We have the choice as adults to, in our health care. It's not something that we need to mandate. And also for the sake of the public, because I just happened to be at town hall the other day, and a gentleman came in and went up to the door, and he was upset that he couldn't get in. And he came over to me and said, "Do you know when this library is ever going to be open?" And I said, "Well, yeah, they should be open now. We don't have an emergency thing in place, and so we should be open." So I went up to the door, and my key fob doesn't open the door, and the door was locked. And I went, so he was just talking to me about, well, the shelving is already done, and I just love this library. He's a retired gentleman, and he said, "I just love to come around and browse, and it's one of the best libraries." And I said, "Yes, it is. Unfortunately, public can't use it." So that's terrible, in my opinion. That's why we exist, to provide these services. And I would like to see the numbers go up as far as serving the community for animal control, where people don't just have to make an appointment. People should have access to their public buildings and to their public services. And these people are smart enough that if they are high risk, or if they're experiencing symptoms, that they know to stay home and not go to town hall. And so these are all reasons that I think at this time, I just don't see that this resolution is necessary, based on all the factual evidence.
Chief would like to make a comment.
Mayor Pro Tem Council, the only thing I would ask is, I've had two officers who have come down with COVID, and under the current form, the way it sits, they are having to use their own personal sick leave to be off, even though they're required to be off. I would like to see, I don't know how it would work, but to see that, make sure if they have to take off, that they're still covered like they were before, where the town allows them that time off without having to use their sick leave and/or vacation.
Chief, I think that is very reasonable. In my opinion, this can be extenuating circumstances in where it seems to last a little bit longer. I mean, that's not with everyone. Many times they just get a little sniffle and move on with life. But there are some, I think, who it may impact greater, and so some additional time off, I believe, could be warranted. I would say maybe an additional 2 weeks for someone who has experienced severe symptoms. I guess I can make a motion for that. I make a motion that we provide sick leave for those who are experiencing severe symptoms of COVID-19, so that their sick leave is not impacted.
I don't quite know how to deal with a motion without any documentation, but okay. I mean, we have a resolution that includes that language. we also have a motion and a second on the resolution, so I'm not sure how we go with this. And you made a motion inside of a resolution, not modifying it, so I don't know quite how to proceed.
Okay, I guess my motion would be, as I stated earlier, and disapproving that only for the sake of the employees. So I'm trying to find which paragraph it is that addresses the sick leave. Yeah, the numbers have come down very, very significantly, which is great news. Well, maybe we just vote on my motion first and see where that goes.
Do we have a second on Councilor Jaramillo's motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve administrative leave of up to 14 days should an employee become infected with COVID.
Discussion.
Go ahead.
I would like to know how this was handled the first wave we had. Employees having to be off of work because of COVID diagnosis.
Employees having to quarantine because of a positive COVID-19 diagnosis were given administrative leave in our previous resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And we are now doing that outside of a resolution, so I don't know exactly how that's going to work. I guess we're just saying we're going to do this administratively.
If it was already in place, wouldn't that continue? Wouldn't that be reasonable to continue that?
I'm being told that we're going to have to do it by resolution because it does require funding.
It also requires notice that you did not put onto this agenda for that type of a specific separate resolution.
And we did not separate the resolution that we are about to vote on this resolution, so that may be a violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, so that's why I was looking for the paragraph that addressed that.
Excuse me, who was that speaking? Before
That was the town's attorney.
Who?
That would be Mr. Barr.
Czar.
Sorry.
Mr. Czar? Okay. Well, I knew it wasn't the other one that you claim as the town attorney.
Which paragraph, Mayor Pro Tem, is that addresses the employees?
Let's see. Reduce transmission. I carry the resource, governing body, virtual authority. Health emergency, the pandemic necessary. Emergency powers and expenditure of available resources to request aid, assistance, or relief if funds available. Where the heck did it go? It was in here.
Is it in A, maybe? We could look in A. Oh, I guess that's that's the one thing that's important to the employees. Maybe we better bring it back at the next meeting.
Sounds like a plan to me. I thought that it was in the whereas. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It was in the 8th whereas. I think something got missed. Town employees who become ill with COVID-19 or its variants cannot adequately perform their duties, which causes a disruption to the orderly operation of municipal government. Then it was supposed to go on to say that they will be granted, that the CDC recommends that 14 days be the time, et cetera, et cetera. That's weird. I'm glad we caught that.
Okay.
So I will make a motion to table, rescind my original motion, Resolution 2021-18.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Mayor Pro Tem, you have the secondary motion, which was just to do the 14-day. So I think we got to.
Oh yeah. Can we ask that the motion be rescinded, Councilor Jaramillo, that you made to do the 14-day? Can we ask that that be rescinded?
Yes, but I did want to just mention that you restated it incorrectly. So what I was trying to get across was that they would have, I guess, administrative, I said sick leave, but administrative leave would be fine for those who are experiencing severe symptoms.
Okay, and you agree to rescind that motion?
Yes.
And I rescind my motion to pass Resolution 2021-18 and make a motion to table 2021-18 to the next meeting.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Councilor Abraham?
Aye.
Councilor Holly?
Aye.
Councilor Jaramillo?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Resolution 2021-18 is tabled till the next meeting. Next on the agenda, matters from the councilors. Councilor Jaramillo.
One important item for me this evening is requesting that we readdress and submit the ICIP. And I thought it was going to be on this agenda, but I realized, the last meeting where I had requested to shorten the meeting for only what was, critical or important business, such as the hearing, the ICIP, anything else that needed to be done that night. Mayor Pro Tem, I believe you denied that request. I requested to reschedule the meeting. That was ignored and denied. Then I requested a special meeting so that we could meet the ICIP deadline, and that was denied as well. So, not the end of the world here, something that can still be done, but we do need to get it on next meeting's agenda.
Well, Councilor, because of your absence, we missed the deadline. And because we missed that deadline, there is no reason to readdress the ICIP. If you wish to do something like that, I'm certain that you can put something like that on the agenda, but it's certainly not going to go to the state because they won't accept it.
They will.
Well, you know something I don't.
They will.
And that's fine if that's what you wish. But I guarantee you that we have missed the deadline for filing.
And I would like to point out that last year.
And I would also like to point out, Councilor, that even if we would have had a special meeting, the 40 some odd pages of documentation for each of those items that the town's staff would have to have compiled would not have happened either, because the timing for these things is just what it is. The deadline was that Friday, and this is just, it would have been an impossible task even for the entire town staff to attack. And that issue, you decided not to show up for a meeting. I understand and have sympathy for Councilor Abraham, but you knew the brevity or the seriousness of the need for getting things done, and you did not show up for a meeting. And you gave me no reason other than you just simply didn't show. And you knew the import of that meeting.
That is a lie that I did not give you a reason.
I'm sorry, Counselor, that you don't feel that I'm being truthful, but I am being very direct.
Okay, so if you would allow me to continue with my comment.
You may certainly continue.
Okay, so in my request to take care of only the business that had to be attended to that evening, the town staff let me know that you refused that. Knowing that you refused that, I asked to reschedule. For some odd reason, you weren't willing to reschedule in the event of a death. And so that just wasn't reasonable, since we all try to work with each other and give each other respect on meetings and flexibility on things. You had just canceled the meeting prior to this one. And then I did request a special meeting. Now, the ICIP, in my understanding, was due Friday. So there was plenty of time for us to have that meeting because it was due the 17th. It's only the 22nd now, right? So there was space in between that situation and to have the ICIP discussion. As well, I just wanted to point out that last year, we went over the ICIP multiple times. We gave the community plenty of opportunity to comment. We were able to ask questions about how much something would have cost, etc. At this time, it was put on at the meeting right before the deadline. That's not our fault. Emergencies happen, things do happen where we need more than just one meeting to handle things. And so, going back to last year, we talked about ICIP in July, in August, in September. Staff had plenty of time to be compiling all of this information. We brought it up at budget as well. And so the other thing that I wanted to mention is there are very worthy projects on the current ICIP, which is a multi-year plan. It's sitting at DFA. There's not a lot to compile. Let's say if council just had determined that very night, we're going to leave the ICIP the way it is, or maybe make one or two small changes, that would have been very doable. And so just wanted to say that, I'm disappointed that you weren't willing to respond and to work, with rescheduling the meeting. I did call you multiple times, I emailed you multiple times, and was completely ignored, even in a situation like this. So, again, I find it very rude and not respectful, and I'm just, asking that we get the ICIP on the next agenda, and we can discuss things and submit a revision if we have a revision. Maybe we want to leave it the same as last year. Many of the projects on there still are not fully funded and need to be, especially the wastewater treatment plant that is very high priority. So that's my request.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Abraham.
I want to readdress some issues that I brought up in the past. I would like to put on the next agenda for us to look at and revise our organizational chart. We need to update it to correctly reflect
our current organization through the end of the year. I understand Mr. Torres is leaving. John Bassett is no longer mayor. We need to address that so that people can look at our website and our organizational chart and find true information. The other thing I would like is an update on the pay plan that we have funded, that we have been asking for multiple years, a pay plan update. And finally, I would like us to schedule a date for the Purple Heart ceremony. We've talked about Veterans Day, we've talked about a lot of things, but I think it's time that we actually honor our Purple Heart recipients and have a ceremony. You guys have had events for all kinds of other things, and I think it's time we have an event for the Purple Heart Trail. And so those are the things that I would like to see on the next agenda. And I would like to say that I am very saddened that you guys weren't able to work around the death in my family. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Holly.
I'll try and keep short. We're going long tonight. I would like to say I attended the 9/11 20th anniversary commemorative ceremony and thought it was very well done and very moving. There was a wonderful turnout, and I just want to thank all who planned, organized, and participated in that event. And I guess to close the loop on this discussion about the last meeting, I too am sorry for Councillor Abraham's loss. In addition to the ICIP discussion, though, we had a public hearing scheduled that evening, and if we would have had a quorum, you know, we could have gotten through that. Now this public hearing will have to be scheduled for a third time, and the participants will have to, you know, reschedule so that they can meet our schedule and be at the meeting. And anyway, that's another item that, you know, needed to be taken care of, but I guess it'll come up at a later date. That's all.
I'm going to pass this on to matters from the Clerk Treasurer. Mr. Torres.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Council. Well, it's been a while since we've actually had a meeting. I was looking at the calendar. It's been about 8 weeks since we've had a meeting. So, as Councilor Abraham said, I am leaving the town of Edgewood. It's been an honor the past 5 years to serve the town. Most definitely the last 2 I will never forget. But I've just been trying to shore everything up and make sure you know, project folders are in place, everything's there for whoever my successor may be, so that they may have the information available. I'm trying to get the auditors all the information they possibly can have, just so that way everything's there. I even let them know I'd be available, you know, just to take a call if you feel the call here or there. But no, it's been a pleasure. And Councilor Abraham, my condolences to you and your family for your loss. I also do want to let you guys know that the month of October, the council chambers are going to be used for the election for early voting. So that the clerk's office should be coming in to set up at the beginning of the month, and then they'll have the early voting in here and Saturday voting as well. I don't have their hours yet exactly from them. And that's it. I just thank you for the opportunity to let me serve my hometown, and I wish you guys the best of luck moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Torres. It will be a great loss to see you go. Next item is calendar review. Brews on Bachelor, September 25th. Next regular council meeting, October 13th. At that meeting, we will have the rescheduled public hearing on Ordinance 2021-04, Project Participation Agreement with Fat Pipe LLC. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
I hear a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I
Thank you, council. Have a very good evening, and once again, our condolences and our thoughts are with you, Councilor Abraham. Good night.
Thank you very much.